I know we're not happy. If you're one of more than 73 million Americans who voted for the incumbent to stay in office, it's been a tough few months. If you look at what's happened in just 130 days, can it get worse? It's not just the crazy policies of the Biden-Harris administration. It is clearly the fact that the man who now holds the title of president is unfit to serve. Look at how he is challenged simply by reading a speech in public.
Here's what drives the driver in the states that are affected. Here's what you can do, the drivers. Visit vaccines.gov, vaccines.gov. I took it to instill public confidence in the vaccine. President-elect Harris took hers today for the same reason.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
You know the thing, yes, we know the thing as patriots and we know the founding documents. But this isn't some old man who's just stumbling at a teleprompter. This is a person who clearly has cognitive issues. This one video about a man trying to put his pen back in his pocket tells you how dire the situation truly is.
Excuse me, my pen away here. In my pocket.
Mumbling to himself, trying multiple times to simply put a pen in his pocket before he gives up and puts it in his pants pocket. That is the man who is in charge of America's nuclear weapons. That should be enough to discredit him, to eliminate him from ever holding any office of significance in America. But it's not just now. This is the incredible story of Joe Biden. Let's go back in time when he wanted to be president and he had a presidential campaign and he said amazing things about his college record.
I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. Went back to law school and in fact ended up in the top half of my class. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only needed 123 credits.
But then he got caught. He bragged so much that even the legacy media had to do a little bit of homework, and they caught him red-handed.
Biden now concedes he did not graduate in the top half of his law school class, that he does not have 3 degrees from college, and that he was not named outstanding political science student in college.
Newsweek says Biden actually went to school on a half scholarship, ended up near the bottom of his class, and won only 1 degree, not 3.
Joe Biden ranked 76th in a class of 85 at the University of Syracuse Law School. I mean, this guy comes off this whole thing as a flyweight.
Now Biden says Newsweek is right. His memory had failed him.
His memory had failed him, but that wasn't enough. He kept on running until, incredibly, the man who wanted to be president stole a whole section of a speech about growing up in part of a mining community from the then leader of the British Labour Party, the British Socialists, Neil Kinnock. He was found to have stolen that speech, that whole segment, lock, stock and barrel, and as a result, the plagiarist went back to the Senate. Now that's ancient history. That should have completely disabused this man of ever wanting to run for anything above county dog catcher. But let's look about the events. Let's look at what's happened in the last few days here in America. The man who bears the title of president has said on Memorial Day that the greatest threat to America is white supremacists Really? White supremacists? What is this man's track record? What is Joe Robinette Biden Jr.'s record when it comes to racial harmony in America? Well, here's the first reminder.
Unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I yield myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized.
Black Americans, predators and super predators, simply don't have a conscience. That's what Biden thinks of people who have a different skin color. In fact, the legacy media couldn't avoid just how bigoted this man was, and they dragged up the history of what he had done to praise segregationists, calling them gentlemen, fine gentlemen. And of course, well, somebody used that as a weapon. In the Democrat debates, the woman who is now his vice president raised the issue that, well, sleepy, creepy Biden wasn't in favor of integrating America's children and having busing in the United States.
It was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of 2 United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. And it was not only that, but you also worked with them to oppose busing.
And now she's in the West Wing with him. Lastly, when it comes to his history of racial division in America, let's look at the photograph that nobody in the White House or in the lying legacy media wants you to see. Right there, next to him, beaming, wide grin, is Joe Biden with a former leader of the KKK, Robert Byrd. Imagine if there were photographs of that ilk of any Republican president or presidential hopeful. But for me, the one thing you need to know that means this man should never have become president, and which we have to repeat, every single one of us watching this show, every single day if somebody mentions the name of Joe Biden, is what he did to a great American. That American happened to be black. His crime, in addition to being black, was that he was a conservative, and that the then Republican president nominated him to the highest court in the land. Clarence Thomas is an icon. He is an inspiration to all Americans. And we have to understand Joe Biden's role in trying to scotch that nomination. Listen to what Clarence Thomas says when he is falsely accused of sexually inappropriate behavior in what he called a modern high-tech lynching.
This is a circus. It's a national disgrace. It is a high-tech lynching for uppity blacks who in any way deign to think for themselves. And it is a message that unless you kowtow to an old order, you will be lynched, destroyed, caricatured by a committee of the U.S. Senate rather than hung from a tree.
But it's the most important thing from that moment in history, that the man chairing that committee that tried to execute that high-tech lynching against Clarence Thomas was none other than Joe Biden. That's the racism. That's the physical and mental incompetence. But on this week's Reality Check, we're going to focus on the national security vulnerabilities that Joe Biden has brought with him to the West Wing and to the Oval Office. The big story that people don't want you to know about is, of course, his son's lifestyle, his son's involvement with corrupt companies in Europe and with communist China. We have the images from his laptop. Yes, Hunter, that's your laptop, because when your lawyers asked for it back, that meant that you agreed that those were your images, those were your emails. But who cares? It's a private individual, right? He can do what he wants with prostitutes, with drugs. Well, not so fast. His father isn't just the man who bears the title of president. He was vice president under Obama. And as such, Hunter Biden traveled with his father, the vice president, on international trips, such as to communist China. After that trip, he came home, and his brand new company, Rosemont Seneca, landed a deal that not even J.P. Morgan or Merrill Lynch could land. Rosemont Seneca landed a more than $1 billion deal funded by the National Bank of Communist China, as his father is the point person for Obama's China policy. On top of that, he lands a sweetheart deal of the century with one of the most corrupt companies in Eastern Europe, Burisma, the energy company, despite Hunter Biden having no background in energy or Eastern Europe. And that nets him $83,000 a month for a no-show job. When the oldest paper in America, the paper founded by Hamilton, decides to write about it, what happens to the New York Post story? It is censored. Big tech makes it impossible. Facebook, Twitter deletes those posts of the truth about Hunter Biden and the laptop. Now, again, I understand. This is a man who has problems. Drug use. He's kicked out of the Navy for being an addict. He says it's not his laptop. It doesn't matter. The New York Post knows it's his laptop. We have the evidence. And then this week, most damning of all, the story that he had his business partners from Central Asia and Eastern Europe meet with his father in Cafe Milano when his father was vice president, despite the vice president again and again and again denying that he ever discussed his son's business dealings.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.